Hey everyone, and welcome to episode 116 of the Fitness Level Podcast. We've got Carolyn Macdonald on here today. We're going to get into her work at The Art of Getting Shit Done. That's her website, her podcast. And we're going to talk about what the background going into what seemed like quick success for her. She's gotten a lot of traction really, really quickly with her work, but there's a lot that existed before anyone saw it. We talk about productivity for enthusiasts and for coaches. And do you need a clear end game in your fitness business? Stick around and enjoy.
Shut up and sit down.
Hey everyone, it's Andrew Coates here. Dean is a little under the weather, but he's here in spirit. He's here in presence.
Maybe
not so much in spirit.
I think I'll be good.
We'll see how this goes. We often fail to introduce ourselves, so I'm sure there are people who hear it early on. It takes them a little while to figure out who is who, but I think the personalities are a little different, so you should be okay. But more importantly, we've got our friend Carolyn Macdonald back. So Carolyn, if you haven't found out about Carolyn before, she's the director of operations at examine.com, and she's got her own website and podcast, Art Getting Shit Done, which has been, taking off. So we wanted to talk a little bit about that, but it's great to have you back.
Thank you for having me. And also, that's really generous, taken off.
Yeah. Well, we get made fun of because, we've been told we don't banter with female guests the same way. But the truth is,
you guys are misogynistic assholes, right?
I'm going to be that right now. It's like you come on a podcast with us, and then all of a sudden you have your own fucking podcast.
I did steal the idea from you. Andrew set up the podcast for me.
And I think I'll say it every time you post something about it, but I'll probably always make a comment forever. But Art of Getting Shit Done, I think that was partly my idea. Remember I said I have a PhD in getting shit done. You're like, oh, no. I love that.
No. So here's the thing. It's not partly your idea. It's all your idea, except okay. I was smart enough to jump on it and then trademark it, then use it for myself.
Yeah, I would rather you do that. I honestly, I'm totally cool with that because then something that I thought of, I don't actually have to fucking do. Because you know what I mean? I would rather you use it because you're actually you embody.
Dean is the idea man for this stuff. I mean, it was his idea to start this podcast, Nasty. It actually was his idea to bring together the Strength Symposium.
I don't actually do any of it.
2019 one that we hosted that you spoke at. So, and then now he's just got to work on the other stuff. And so then me and Somerset and our partner John are going to continue on with that one. So
Dean's brain is like a gold mine, essentially. Yeah. That's what it is. Because I remember I actually re-listened because I'm a narcissist. I re-listened to the episode that I was on last time, and Dean was just like, "Do you know what you should do? You should just start a business called The Art of Getting Shit Done. Just GSD it." I'm like,
Yeah. Exactly.
There it was.
Exactly. I'm in the embodiment of altruism. That's my whole goal in life is to help people. Help as many people as possible. Sorry.
Here are free ideas. Now, of course, everybody's going to be messaging in his inbox, his DMs, and be like, hey, do you got any ideas for me?
Yeah. Quit your job.
So, obviously the ideas that originated with Dean, and we were talking about Art of Getting Shit Done. So despite the humility about it, we've actually seen a lot of quick success with it. Your articles are getting read, your podcasts are getting downloaded. And across the industry, people are picking up on what you're doing and enjoying it a lot. We've had a lot of big name guests on the podcast already, more planned. So I guess trainers are seeking quick solutions to brand explosion. We know that. They're always looking for that hack, that quick way to go viral, I think is how most people think about it. But a lot went into the website and the podcast and kind of your network and connections leading up to it. So it's not like you came out of absolutely nowhere. So could you take us through the groundwork leading to how this stuff has done well?
So to be quite honest with you, when it comes to my network, it's all pretty accidental. I don't go to conferences typically, nor do I go to events and try to meet people, who I think have influence. I just have this philosophy, which is, especially if you find yourself liking someone, just be as nice to everyone, as many people and everyone, despite your first impressions, because you never know, right? That, and like I was always the new kid growing up, so I have this like constant thirst to be liked and make friends. So that was what initially built my network. So for the first year leading up to the fitness summit, I forced myself to go to a lot of like different dinners, to a lot of social events, where I just made friends with everyone. And the people I made friends with happened to include influencers like Alberto, the macro wizard, and then you guys. Like I didn't, no offense, I didn't know who you guys were until you guys went home to Edmonton. Oh, Edmonton. And then you're like, Carolyn, this is what we have planned. Do you want to jump on board? I'm like, oh shit, I just thought you guys were, a peasants like
exactly.
me. So
we're big time.
you guys are so big.
Podcasts are big.
Thank you. Your podcast is so big. Thank you for considering a peasant such as myself. But yeah, just making sure that I was grateful, making sure that I was open to having relationships with people that I typically wouldn't have if I was just like staying at home and being the anti-social awkward person that I am, allowed me to grow and nurture this network. And then when it comes to the content and figuring out what to do, it literally was just like long-term thinking. I was talking to Lee Boyce about this, and Lee Boyce was just like, a lot of people, especially in our generation, we're constantly worried about making viral content and trying to jump onto every opportunity that arises. If I was to jump on the first opportunity to create a website, I would have done it last November, actually. And last November, Alberto was the person who said, hey, you should build a website. And Louis Guarino said the same thing. And I had actually put together a website called buildingonlineteams.com, because it was the only idea I can come up with at the moment. And I was really close to launching it. But then combination of imposter syndrome, but also like really, really thorough thinking. I was just like, fuck it. No, I'm not going to do this because I don't know much about it. Or at least I'm not passionate enough about it. So I hit the pause button, and I waited until I had felt comfortable with what I wanted to do and the skills I had to develop to do it, and the resources I had on hand to do it. And that was when I met you guys and met Dean and stole his idea and launched The Art of Getting Shit Done in August. So yeah.
We always talk about it too with, I don't know, we always get on rants about networking and being nice to people, but like long story short is like, don't be an asshole and don't discount anyone. Because we were even talking about this before, is that there's like this, and I talked about this with my buddy Jed, who's been on the podcast, but there's like this roller coaster, and there's already a roller coaster that already happened. There's like this generation of fit pros that kind of made it. They kind of all went up together and they've made it. And now there's like this new generation of like, we'll call it like 10 years back, but like you can kind of see it with all the fit casts and all these other people, they kind of made it. And now there's this whole new generation of trainers that are coming up and trying to make their careers the same way as all the people who laid the foundation before us. And it's just, if you kind of neglect the fact that there's this movement happening, you'll turn away a lot of people that are going to be something. Not that they're not something, but there's a career late into their 30s and into their 40s where they're going to start being those people that we looked up to. And if you discount people at these types of events, you'll miss out on that movement.
Well, there's also this idea to take it one step further. It's the proverbial be nice to people on your way up, because they're the same people you're going to be meeting on your way back down.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely, because we all make mistakes, right? We all fuck up somewhere down the road, whether it's like early on in our career or much later on when we're very established. And when that moment comes, if you have no friends, if you've burnt the bridges early on, no one's going to be there to help build you back up. And that's the issue about that. Also, I have a little example that will make Andrew smile because he loves justice. So a few years ago, when Saul and Kamal started taking me to conferences with them, the ongoing trend was every time like a fanboy or whatever came up to Kamal, they wouldn't say hi to me at all or acknowledge I exist. And I kind of understand why. It was because I was just this like tiny Asian girl who like they didn't really recognize because I was like working on the back end of exam and I wasn't put into the public eye yet. So they like didn't say anything. So a few years down the road, I recognized a few of these folks because they started to cold email me asking for jobs. So see, Andrew's like grinning ear to ear.
I love shit like this.
Yeah, and I remember like reading one of the resumes. I was just like, I remember seeing this guy in Chicago, and like he actually made eye contact with me, but did not say hi and just kept talking to Kamal. Then when he said bye, he still didn't say bye to me at all.
Well,
so it's just like,
in one defense to that, and like they probably, who knows what they meant, but like fitness professionals, I don't know if they like missed the boat. Maybe they just don't have other jobs other than fitness stuff, but like they tend to be like super bad in social situations. Not that they're all introverted, but like they don't even know like the pleasantries of those types of conversations. Like, I don't know. I go to these conferences and like I notice it. It's just like a bunch of introverts.
There's some for sure.
Like,
well, shit. I mean, when we had Strength Symposium, the 2019 one, I realized in the end, like we're trying to like have it as a social event. I think almost all of the speakers, presenters were introverted. It's like, holy shit, this is going to be fun.
Well, just a skill you pick up. Like if you've been in any other careers or anything, like you'll go to other conferences, like even like a sales conference, like that's kind of what they do is they know how to say hey, and they know how to say bye, and they know how to ask like questions that they don't really care about, but they can still spark the conversation like that. Like, I feel like that doesn't happen, which is a huge part to networking. If you read any networking book, it's like those are the things you do, and for whatever reason, it seems to be like shittier in the fitness industry. So I'm gonna think about, or I'm gonna look for the best in those people. I don't know if they meant to do that, but who knows? We'll just say that they did because it's funny that way.
It's what Mark Fisher has said numerous times is, and I always credit him with this, is unconditional positive regard. So when you see someone who is having a bad day or is just negative and you encounter them, whatever, don't assume that they're trying to negatively affect you and your day. Don't assume that they're, just a straight out asshole. There might be something going on in their world that you don't see beneath the surface. And I know this stuff's a little bit cliche too, but it comes down to the whole thing. Like, be nice. You don't know what someone else is going through. And yeah, there are definitely going to be some people who would have looked right past you because all they thought about or cared about was, hey, I want to talk to this, quote, important person in their mind. And then they generally just don't acknowledge the little people or the unknowns. And that's a giant mistake. I think that's a very, very dangerous mistake to go to.
Plus you're little.
Any events like this.
I am pretty tiny. Lee Boyce refers to me as the child.
That's good. I'm actually okay with that nickname, even if it like has some like negative connotations. It's hilarious.
Versus the Hobbit.
Yeah, it's way better. Well, the Hobbit's way better, but like you can like you'd get in trouble.
Yeah, but you are right. Like it's a very dangerous game you're playing if you're obviously in social scenarios just to network, and because you find yourself. It could be intentional. It could also be unintentional. But if you're there specifically to just network and get as much like impactful like contacts as possible, then you're gonna find yourself ignoring the smaller folks or the folks that you don't instantly recognize. And like regardless of your intentions, like intentions are great, but intentions aren't everything. The final result is you have ignored someone.
I think something else is really important to point out too is because we do end up talking about the networking aspect of our industry a fair bit on the podcast certainly today. This stuff, I don't think it's a very good idea to go out with the intention of quote networking. I think professional networkers can kind of be a little bit weird. Instead, go and enjoy and meet people and enjoy people. Go in with no expectations or agenda as to what you can gain from the whole experience. The first event that I went down to, which would have been the 3 Kansas City Fitness Summits ago, and I knew personally 2 people who were attending, and I had one more on Facebook who I had sort of like barely interacted with. And then I met a shit ton of people. I didn't go down there like, hey, this is the grand plan. Later on, we're going to have a podcast. We're going to host our own. So I didn't have a goddamn clue about the plausibility of any of these sort of things. This stuff all just very organically happened later, in a large part due to either ideas inspired by that particular event or connections made at that event. but there was no agenda other than, hey, I'm going to go down and experience this. I want to see these speakers present because a whole bunch of people that I like and I want to go and like listen to them. It turned into something way, way, way crazier than I could have ever imagined.
Well, plus like there's this one, I don't know, I call it fanboying. Well, if you go to these things, like there's going to be generally a lot of these conferences have speakers that we look up to or like have learned from. And if you go into them with the intention of like befriending that, like it's just like you can smell it from a mile away. So like just don't be that person. Like, and I know that then it's calculated. You're trying not to be that person, but like just don't go in with any expectations. Like Andrew says, like I don't even know why we're like. I guess what we're trying to get to is like all these things that you have done was because you went to these things with like the intention of just like going to an event and enjoying it for the sake of enjoying it. And then all these things tend to happen. Yeah. Where like, I can't say the opposite is true, but I mean like, it's a much, I don't know, I feel like it's a healthier way to build those relationships if there isn't like an ulterior motive behind it. And I guess that's a normal thing to say, but like, I truly think that it's a better way to go about things.
Yeah, because it's less transactional, right? Would you be more willing to help someone who approached you because they know you have something to offer? Or would you be more willing to help someone because you have years of friendship with them and you know that they've always had your back?
Well, I've been part of both, and like transactional relationships, like they work, but like they just don't feel that great. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, and like I won't get into details of them, but I mean like, they do have their merit, but like if that's what you're going in for, like again, you can still smell it from a mile away, especially if you don't have much to offer. I think that's something you get when you have like a background or a business, because those types of things have to happen to grow. Like that's any bigger business is going to have transactional relationships, but it feels way better to not approach it like that. Especially as someone who's new or up and coming, like you don't have shit to offer. Like,
I have like nothing to offer. Like I said this with Mike Israel was on my podcast, and I was just like, at one point I stopped everything. I'm like, guys, if you want money from me or whatever from me, I have nothing to offer you. But like that being said, I might just be full of bullshit when it comes to like the whole networking thingy. I might just be a snob about it. Like, you don't know, right? Because like at the end of the day, I mentioned this to Andrew a few weeks ago. I'm like, I think I benefit from being very genuine and just like, I don't know, genuinely interested in people, but then also like I just happen to have like Andrew as my mentor, who also is like the big brother I never asked for, but thank God he's here, because like when the time comes and every single time Andrew always steps up and he's like, no, you have to meet this person. And then he would just like fucking force me to say hi to someone. Even when like I don't even reply, I'm like, oh, maybe. And then like 2 seconds later, he's on like a Facebook Messenger group chat. And he's like, okay, meet Carolyn. Carolyn, meet this person. You have to talk to each other now. Bye. I'm like,
I did that shit with everybody. Like Sam Spinelli messaged me yesterday. He was looking to connect with some people or some ideas about a project he's working on. So I'm like, okay, cool. Here's a list. And I just started like creating these group messages and linked him up with a whole bunch of people in the industry. And so it helps him with what he's doing. Now, everybody was like super happy to be involved in it. So I love that kind of stuff. Yeah. I think we talked about this last time, but sort of when I met Carolyn, we'd had Louis Guarino on the podcast, and you and Louis are very good friends and live in Toronto. But I hadn't met Louis in person, but we just had him on air. And so I read to you guys, I got sort of a photographic memory for the stuff in kind of an elevator, just outside an elevator. So me and Louis were all excited to see each other, and then you're there with him. And then through that and interactions, you just decided like, yeah, you're my friend, and that's it. And I remember for a big chunk of one of the days of the conference, it was just kind of me and Brett Contreras and Lee Boyce just standing off to one side, all the big tall guys, and doing it. And Lee did the same sort of shit. Lee just like decides, like, hey, we're friends. It's like, brother, here, give me your phone number, shit like that. And we just hang out over the side the whole time. And then Carolyn just comes over with us and just hangs out with all the giants. And I think Melody Schoenfeld did the same sort of thing. She just made sure she got some pictures because Melody is literally half her size.
But that goes back to the same thing we're talking about, is like, especially like we'll talk about like even Mike, for example, or even Lee. Like there's these people that have done things, they deal with transactional relationships all the time. So like, again, they can sniff that out. And especially like you said, if you have nothing to offer, like just be yourself. Cause like at the end of the day, that transactional relationship is so easy to spot, especially for people that deal in that on the daily. and like you guys are just hanging out because you're big and you have all muscles and you like working out. Like that's enough to be friends on a normal day. Like they don't need to hear your fucking spiel about this business opportunity that they have. You know what I mean? Like, because you fucking know those people. You're like just waiting for them to fucking say it. Like, just tell me your elevator pitch already, you fucking idiot.
The irony of this is Dean just organically goes and meets Mike Dola from Stronger You at the conference. I brought him 2 years ago down to it, and like hangs out with Mike T. Nelson and meets all these other sort of people. And then somehow they just all buddy up and they get these ideas for a business venture. It's
because I don't have an elevator pitch. Like I fucking hate elevator pitches, by the way. So like whatever. If I ever wrote a book about like business, I'd be the worst because like I'm like fuck your elevator pitch. No one wants to fucking hear your elevator pitch. Like the second an elevator pitch comes up, they either think it's MLM or you're trying to sell them your shitty business. And even if it's not shitty, the fact that you have an elevator pitch, they already think you're shitty because like
100%.
I swear to God.
Here's one of my favorites. You want to like surefire way. I will not accept a Facebook friend request if the person's bio says I help fitness professionals. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, like it's elevator pitches. I maybe I'm wrong, but I think they're outdated.
Yeah,
I actually agree with that, and I refuse to use one in my own bio as well. And I know a lot of trainers do it, and actually it's fine. Like I use my personal Facebook as a very much a business brand identity thing. But at the same time, there just is something that I don't dig about seeing that kind of cliche bio. And I know where it came from. And I know that it was something that was sort of taught to people, hey, to do this stuff. But I think now it's sort of shifted and it's so ubiquitous that it's like kind of cliche.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Mad Men? Like it's totally like sexy.
Oh,
but
man. Yes.
But like they all made business deals by like getting drunk.
Yeah.
and fucking like going out the strippers. Like horrible, but like
getting drunk, going to strippers and talking about who what girlfriend they have that month.
Now let's just change it to our generation where like females are cool too and like they're not like looked down upon like that show. Like that these conferences are that fucking thing. Like that's they're not putting their elevator pitch, they do, but like they wait to ask. They wait for them to be like, yo, what do you fucking do? Not like you can literally see it's like they're kind of shaking, like they're shaking and they're like pacing. They're like, when are you gonna ask? When are you gonna ask? let me shine. It's my moment to shine. It's like, what do you do for a living? Oh, I'm glad you asked. I'm like, oh, fuck you, Bob. Fuck you. See, you're sexist now. Of course it's Bob. What if it was Jacqueline? You ever think of that?
Well, little do you know, I am also a misogynistic asshole.
Okay, let's. Okay, no, we'll talk.
We gotta bring this one back.
We gotta bring this one back to fitness. So, like, and again, you said you've been surprised with the quick success of the art of getting shit done and the articles and the podcast. But trainers are often seeking solutions to brand explosion, regardless. So, yeah. But a lot went into this. We went into it beforehand. But your industry.
You're reading the wrong question.
What? No, I'm not.
You're reading my question.
I mean, oh, fuck yeah. I read the wrong question.
See, I told you he was off today.
Oh.
I did this once. So now I did this once a long time ago.
I think you should just ask the question for me because then it seems weird.
All right, fine. Okay.
See, this is like, I'm not editing this out because I don't give a fuck. That's kind of our
production budget isn't that high. Okay, so what Dean was supposed to ask you was, we talk a lot about this stuff in the past about productivity for fitness professionals. That's a big part of your thing at your website. And most of the same principles apply to people and their fitness goals. So both in getting started and staying on track. So how can we apply some of these getting shit done lessons to the enthusiasts that listen and also for the coaches to work with their clients?
Nailed it. Do you mean in terms of like the tools or for like the lay person, regardless of whether or not they're like fit pros? I think it's the same tool that can be used universally. So like when I launched Art of Getting Shit Done, the only reason I had marketed directly to the fitness pros is because that just happens to be the social group that I'm part of, right? The end goal with Art of Getting Shit Done is just to help people in general, especially like anxious millennials who are still ambitious, but just like struggling to get shit done. So I talk a lot about motivation psychology, which I won't delve too much into. But I think everyone should study more up on it. Go to Dr. Lisa Lewis's website or just ask her to talk a little bit more about it. But it applies to everything. Intrinsic motivations always a little bit better than extrinsic. Don't focus too much on rewards. Focus more on how it's going to help you long term and how it makes you feel, right? Because like focusing only on like, if I do this, then I'm going to make X amount of money can only get you so far. You're going to burn out. You're going to start losing traction, and then you're going to become distracted. But the one major thing I always kind of preach when it comes to just getting shit done in general, whether you're a fit pro, whether you work in finance, by the way, I'm sorry, I hate finance bros, or whether you work in like accounting, is accountability. The first thing you need to do whenever you venture off into like a new project or a new goal is to tell a few people, especially people that you hold up to in high regards, about your intentions and how you plan to actually complete that task or reach your goal, because now you're going to feel that pressure. Now you know that people are watching you, and people are going to notice if you have decided to just go, fuck it, I'm not doing this, or like drag your feet, because people are going to start asking you questions. Like, for example, when I started this website, Andrew, Louis, Alberto, and like even Dean, when I was in Edmonton, were up my ass asking me like, what are you doing? Like, what's next? Like, what are you working on? What is your direction? And giving me feedback. And that's because I had announced what I was doing, and they were all focused on just making sure everything was okay and keenly interested in my success and my progress. And when you have people like that, you will always move forward. You will always continue moving forward. And that is that's the only thing you can really hope for when it comes to just getting shit done. The reason why people don't get shit done is because they don't have accountability. It's because they don't feel the need to move forward. They become stagnant, and then they quit or they forget.
Another big thing to that is, and probably the reason why a lot of us cared, was because, and we even get this because of the podcast, like people ask us all the fucking time, like, how do I start a podcast? They just ask, and like we give our time away, and like we, at this point, it's not going to happen for most of the people that ask. Like, we know there's going to be no follow through. So when someone actually like asks questions and meaningful questions and actually does something, like that's not the norm. And so when you do it, you end up getting this huge rush of like support, because it's so.
It's actually, I can tie this in really, really well. You remember Jeb Johnson made this great post about how when you fantasize about achieving your dreams, it actually blunts. And there is some psychology, evidence-based research. You get the reward sensation of having achieved it, and it actually can work against you getting it done. So for some people, the action of asking about doing things, and this will probably relate to what you're doing, asking about doing things feels like they're accomplishing something. And I think it's really important, if you're genuinely interested in doing something, ask people who know and then act upon it. I'm not suggesting anyone doesn't do that, but
it looks really bad if you don't.
Be very careful about feeling fulfilled by taking the earliest baby steps, putting your toes in the water, but then you don't end up jumping in and doing anything about it.
What, even the tie to the accountability piece. So like, you're doing it because of accountability, and I would say like most people just do it because it's like the first thing that comes to mind, without understanding that there has to be some accountability to that, because if you don't do it, the negative is that everyone thinks you're a fucking loser. Like, I don't care what that means, but like, it's true to some degree. Like, there's like these people that just ask and ask and ask, and I should do this and I should do this. Stop fucking putting it out there if you're not going to do it, because you don't think you're accountable, but people think that you're trying to do it for accountability. And when you don't do it, you're just a loser.
Yeah. Right? Or you're full of shit.
Like, you're just full of shit. Like, because the second you put it out there, like, it is a thing that you either have to follow through with, or at least update people. Like, I decided not to do this because of this. And usually what happens is they just ghost the whole idea. And you're like, people remember, like, fuck. Like, I remember everyone that asked me about the shit projects they're doing. Maybe that's just my brain, but it's just like, I can list like probably like 15 projects that never happened and were ghosted by people that asked the shit.
It happens. Here's something that I do specifically, and there's been a few instances of this. When something comes together and there's a cool project, I don't even mention it on social media until it's fairly concrete. When Dean and I got into the podcast, we put down the groundwork. We talked to people, sort of privately, put in place, did the work, And then finally, when it was ready to be launched, that's when it went on social media. Same thing, I've said this before, when I got asked to write for T Nation, kept my mouth shut, told a few people close to me. I still had to go and put together an article. It still had to be accepted. It was. I kept my mouth shut publicly. Anyway, waited, because they have their publication schedule. And then finally, when the article was released and it was actually official, concrete, can't take it back, that's when it hit social media. The same thing, we're talking about Evolve Strength Symposium 2020. We haven't publicly announced anything. I've talked to a lot of people now that the lineup is settled, but I'm not going to mention that yet. In fact, our next episode, well, I'll say this, Christian Thibodeau is our next recording episode. Christian is in our lineup, so anyone listening, if you're catching here first, Christian Thibodeau is one of our 10 speakers.
But even with that, so like, and this is why I respect you for what you've done, is like, even with our symposium, like, everyone on that thing didn't want to talk about it till like we absolutely knew, because they were all kind of from the same ideology that like this you can't just like say these things are going to happen because like you'll let people down. And like with yours, you basically did it, and you put so much work on the back end before you actually did it that I was like, we're totally different, where I will just do it. Like I will actually just get shit done regardless if it sucks or not. You like made it perfect and then you released it, and it's like you talked about it and it happened to like a very high standard for your first project. Like that's fucking nuts. Your articles are like edited and they have like this beautiful, like you go on the website, it looks great. Like what the fuck?
Thanks, guys. Don't make me ugly cry. Oh my God.
There's something important there too. If you're someone listening to this and you're going to be very careful and try to polish and perfect whatever you're about to release, be careful about that too, because perfectionism is a form of procrastination, and you'll never feel like it's good enough. You'd be surprised when you finally start putting stuff out there. I mean, there's probably so many episodes that we've done that like there are elements of clumsiness or whatever that isn't perfect about them. And guess what? People that love this show. So, and I really am not too concerned with the people who it isn't their thing. Fine. I'm not trying to please them. So I'm not too worried about, hey, we didn't do that well enough. Let's just scrap that episode. Let's call the guest back. Let's record it again. Hell no. Fuck that shit. This takes enough time as it is to do. So.
Well, and that's not a knock at you. Because I think that like.
No, it's not.
Carolyn and we've had this conversation, is like, I do things my way and you do things your way, but your way isn't a negative. So for some people, if I were to try to do things like you, I would procrastinate, because I would use perfectionism to not get it done. But my strength is I just have these ideas and I'll do it. And if I don't do it, it won't happen. So, I mean, you just have to know where you lie on that spectrum of getting shit done.
Yeah. And you guys also have to remember, like I said, there's a fine line between perfectionism and just different standards. So like for me, my own like internal standards are much higher than the average person, because I have this insane sense of imposter syndrome. So, and because I'm so new to the industry, so I feel like a lot of my work has to be polished. That being said, like, guys, like I love and appreciate the fact that everyone keeps telling me that my work is polished. But if I have to be quite honest, when it comes to my own standards, I've only hit 70% before I hit publish. So
how do you judge that? Do you have this checklist? Because I know you're like kind of psycho in that way.
I am a psycho. Yeah, I have this internal checklist on like, how happy am I with this? Does this check off like X, Y, and Z? Okay, well, if it checks off 70% of my requirements, then fuck it, fine. I'm just gonna hit publish.
How you go through it? Like for real?
Yeah. Yeah. It is. And then I say, fuck it. Like as long as there are no major errors, I'm going to release everything. And then if like anything gets caught, like I will edit it. So this shows you how like fucking psychotic I am. And it's weird that Dean actually like doesn't hate me, or like he actually likes me. I consider him a friend because we're so like different, and I'm crazy. You Dean.
Okay.
You. No,
yeah.
Dean 100% loves me.
Yeah.
But like, so whenever I release an article, I'm happy with it, at least by 70%, sometimes 80%, and I publish. But then a week later, I always take the time to read it with fresh eyes to do another round of edits. Quietly.
That is super smart, though. If you are involved in writing whatsoever, one of the best things you can do is to actually step away from whatever you've worked on and then come back to it at least after a couple of days with, like you said, fresh eyes. So, no, that's a super smart play.
I would delete it after I read my shit. That's like that's how different We are like, if I had to reread my thing, I'd probably.
That's why you don't write anything.
Yo, because I like change my mind. Like all this shit we're saying about like getting shit done and fucking like elevator pitches, I'll probably change my mind tomorrow and then speak very confidently on the opposite. But I'm okay with that. You know?
It's okay. Like in every group of friends and like business team, you need an idea generator and you need an executioner. You're the idea generator and I'm the executioner.
I think like, isn't an executioner someone who chops someone's head off?
Oh shit, ESL.
Yeah, like that's not
Executor?
Executor.
Ooh, okay.
Executor. You're the executioner.
Oh no.
The good thing you went back and edited that.
I suspect it's reasonably appropriate to say it that way. So
I think everyone got what you meant, but like I went back to like medieval times with like the dude with the hood and the hats.
And then he goes up, he's like, "Would you like to say your last prayers, ma'am?"
Yeah, and then you cut the head off. But like I'm the dude at the top is like, yeah, cut his head off. That's the idea.
Dear
I'm
God.
gonna round up these people and they're gonna die. Carolyn, just do it, and then I'll just leave.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, okay. How do we? For anyone who says we don't banner, fuck you. Sorry. That's an inside joke that will never get old. For anyone who knows. If you don't know, I'm sorry. It's an inside joke, and I know those are the worst when they come off on podcasts. But you know what? Fuck it. What's next? What's the next one for?
Well, the next one we're going to ask is really we got in the first round anyway. So let's go into how. Let's see. You know what? We never have long silent pauses. This is really, except for Andy.
This is really weird. Am I bringing out your social awkwardness? I'm joking.
No, we're just like so.
He's
like,
sick, and I'm probably tired.
So with a lot of these podcasts, like again, we cover a lot of stuff. So we have like this loose outline, and it's always nice to touch up on this. But like. And we have a script, and then we like to touch up on the questions in order. But then sometimes we just like cover them because we don't like to just have like very robotic conversations. The only thing robotic is maybe the questions, but like that usually sets up the fucking home run. And what did we nailed that one? So like let's talk about like totally. So like many other fitness professionals, you may not have a clear idea of your business end game, or even know how to get there. So what would you share with people who aren't sure of the next step, and what would you suggest they focus on kind of while they figure it all out?
Oh, that's a great question. So it's actually something that keeps popping up again and again every time I meet someone new, whether it was like Sohee Lee, Mike Israel, JC Dean actually recently messaged me, and even Alberto, which is like, is it okay to dive into something without knowing what your end goal is or what your ultimate goal is? And the answer has always been a definitive yes, it is okay, because you don't need to start something with everything mapped out already, because at the end of the day, like, shit's gonna happen, your perspective is gonna change, your priorities are gonna change, and things are kind of gonna go off course. And that's not a failure, but sometimes you can't help but feel like it's a failure. But also, if you feel like you have to start something only if you have everything mapped out, you're going to procrastinate and just not start at all. So my advice for everyone is pretty much what I did. Know what you like, and then focus on that and focus on doing it very well. Like for me, Art of Getting Shit Done, I honestly had no clue what my end goal was. All I wanted to do was create content, and I had like some type of traffic goal for the first 6 months and 12 months, but that was just a goal to keep me like going and to know whether or not I'm improving my content and my ability to market my content. And that was about it. It wasn't until I think JC Dean messaged me and he was like, what is your goal with this website? That I was like, oh fuck, I have no goal. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? And it's not a bad thing at all. Like, what I'm going to do is pretty much the same. I'm going to focus on writing really, really good articles. And yes, it's fucking weird that I only produce one piece of content a month, one episode of my podcast a month, but it keeps me busy and it allows me to focus on the quality, and whatever happens, like it'll come. And when you focus on what you do well, the success will actually come organically, right? Because people can sense when you're actually really invested in your craft and the development of your craft, or if you're just focused on creating viral content.
Yeah, it's like that
Yeah.
whole thing with the networking is you can smell it from a mile away.
Yeah.
Like even, which is interesting because like everyone's going to do it differently. Like you said, you do once a month and we do it once a week. But it's one of those things where like it works and people don't trash it because it's like genuine.
I don't think a lot of people we've talked to on the podcast, we talked about Macdonald, Stronger You. I think he comes to mind first and foremost. I don't think Mike could have ever envisioned how successful Stronger You would be, what it's become when he first started. In his episode with us, he talks about not quitting his job and doing all this coaching himself, and then realize, wait a second, this is growing so effectively due to word of mouth that he has to bring on other coaches. I think a lot of the successful stuff in our world, like a lot of these people did not have a clue what they were doing. Dean Somerset has written that, I remember an old post of his, that every successful thing he's ever been involved in, and he's done a lot of successful stuff, he did not know what he was doing. He just stepped into it. I even responded to a post recently about not necessarily knowing what's kind of next. I think a lot of our friends in this world don't actually have that mapped out plan. There's nothing wrong with not having one.
And yeah.
Oh no, you go.
Oh yeah. So like, Sohee Lee was the same thing. Mike Israel was the same thing. And I find it reassuring to know that a lot of the really, really big names in our industry, they started off pretty much just creating content for the sake of like wanting to do something good, right? And then it just organically developed into something huge because people recognize how invested they were in the content they were producing and how much work they were putting into like making sure that it was good and useful content.
Well, and especially like you said, focus on the stuff you like, but if you're going to be, let's just say your goal is to be writing content and like creating this business long term, like regardless of whatever the goal is, like you have to be that person that is doing these things for a long time to make it work. So it better be something you like. And I think like once you build that audience, then you can start doing things that tailor to that audience, as opposed to like putting this like facade on for this fake audience that you don't have and end up hating the platform in which you created, which I don't say like everyone does that, but again, you can smell it from a mile away when someone's being not a pretender, but like they're just not themselves. Like they're like almost copying someone else's path. And everyone that we've talked about has they haven't ignored the rules of like business and marketing. Like they kind of just organically have done it, but they've all done it their own way because to do it another way probably would have made them not successful.
I've seen examples. I don't know about in the broader industry, but at least there's actually a few examples locally with people who open gyms and facilities. And there were some situations where I think people opened a gym because they thought they were supposed to open a gym. And at a certain point, I can think of two very notable examples, and I don't want to say anything specific, where these people who own the gyms turn around and shut them down because the idea of owning a gym didn't align with what they wanted. And the unfortunate consequence of that is it was a headache for these people, but it also negatively impacted employees and members, clients, this sort of stuff. And I think in those cases, those individuals end up taking a hit. So yeah, I don't think it's a good idea to do something because you think you should be doing it.
Do you know what this gesture is? This is me drinking tea.
This is your pinky up. So
drinking tea.
She's drinking tea with her finger up. So fucked up thing. I fucked up my finger in football. If I grab a cup, pops up. So like everyone thinks I'm like that, but like
there's nothing wrong with that. And Andrew just like spilled the tea, but very subtly.
So what this is all a reference to is the Kermit the Frog meme of just he's sipping tea, but that's none of my business.
It's one of those like, and in one of those situations, like I was directly involved with it. And it's like I can talk about this stuff from the fact that like I've lived through a lot of those things, and even with my own personal journey, is like I've done the whole like be something you're not, and not that it wasn't what but I was doing like a marketing or like a content, I guess, map that just was like I fucking hated it. And the second I stopped doing that, I just and whatever, like it just didn't follow the rules. Things started happening regardless of what is supposed to work. It's like even with Jordan. So Jordan Syatt, we've had him on his podcast. He like fucking posts like a million things. But like that worked for that time, and also worked for Jordan because Jordan loved it. Just like with Mike. Mike's on Facebook all day. He like messages, like we have like 15,000 people in the group, and like he just direct messages, and he's just on there all day. Mike does that because he likes it. If I tried to do that, I would fucking hate being on Facebook all day. So it's just one of those things where like if you know your strengths and you kind of have that self-awareness, like you just have to do. But then there's also that other thing is like people don't take action because they try to find their why or their like what they like, and then it stops them. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's one of those things where
it makes sense. I'll use another example. I do a ton of in-person coaching sessions. In fact, probably more than anybody else in our industry that we're talking to, or at least way up there. I do.
Like you're still like a fucking badass trainer. Like you train all fucking day.
Yeah, I did 48 client hours last week alone, although that's a very high week.
For anyone like who's listening, well, that's like,
I
would hate my life.
That's my point. Is I do believe that if you want to be the fitness industry, you should coach people for sure, but not everybody has the same kind of bandwidth to do stuff like that. I happen to like it. If you like it, enjoy it, great. But if you don't have that much mental energy for it, you should do the amount that you could handle, and don't do it just because you think you should. Now, again, it's also a very good way to make a very comfortable living and income, and that comfortable living and income then affords you the opportunity to do a lot of other things you're interested in. But at the same time, don't be a fake, tired person coaching people when you actually hate coaching people. In fact, if that's how you feel, you might even want to reconsider what you're doing in this industry in the first place.
It's great that you said that, because when I first started Art of Getting Shit Done, for some, it was weird. The first month I only expected my goal was 100 visitors. Obviously that did not happen. It was a lot more. I'm not going to tell you how much, but enough for me to go I think someone's hacking my system. But after it launched, I started to get a lot of random emails and DMs, and it was of a lot of people asking me if I offer consultation services. It was a combination of people who were being referred to me by influencers, fitness pro influencers, which is weird because I don't have a consultant business, or just people who read my shit and they're like, hey, I've seen your presentation or I've read your stuff. Do you offer any type of services when it comes to business coaching? I'm like, absolutely not. And at first I was like, how do I say no nicely? So I thought throwing a really insanely high hourly rate would have people say no, but people actually said yes. So I was like, fuck. Okay, so I'm just gonna be
say that out loud, because then it's gonna
Well, actually, I have an idea. This is sort of thing I would normally say off air, but I'll throw it straight out on air.
You're basically a business coach. You're raise the prices.
Shit. But consider this actually, because if there are a lot of people who are interested in it, you could put them all into a group platform and I hate the term mastermind, certainly, but you could have Jordan Side has his inner circle. So there's always a possibility there where that way you could devote a lot of more direct energy to these people, but do it in a group environment where they all get the benefit from the same message. So
maybe, but
it's got to align.
I said no. I ended up saying no.
I already know the story, so I think it's good to finish it.
Yeah, I ended up saying no because I was just the money was tempting at first because I was just wait, they're saying yes to this absorbing amount that I'm asking per hour. Why the fuck is this happening? Maybe I should consider it. And then Andrew and everyone's just I mean, if you want, you should. And then I sat down would this make me happy? And I was like, no, I would hate my fucking life.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not good as a consultant. I don't do well when people constantly when people feel like they have access to me. That's when I start to break down. Yeah.
And you have a full-time job. People forget this, right? You're the director of operations of a big internet company.
Well, and that's another thing we've touched on before with a lot of our guests, even with Michael Dietrich and stuff. Is there's this whole idea of you should quit everything to do this thing that you think you want to do without having, we'll call it a full-time job, but having a source of income that's stable allows you the opportunity to now do these things that you want to do. But if you just start with what you want to do, just in the world we live in, that's a very, very, very big risk. So you can do once a month content because that's within your bandwidth, but you also have the safety net of your income with a job you like to then grow it at the pace in which works for you. Because with a lot of this viral content, we've been going back to the beginning, is everyone wants to go viral. They want to go viral because they need to make money so that they don't fall out of the industry, which is like a bad spot to be in when you're making decisions purely on virility or basically a source of income that is probably not going to happen. Like that's just.
I'll give you an idea. So we talked about, the number of sessions I do. I write for T-Nation. I am a co-organizer for the Strength Symposium. I do some online training. 98% of my income comes from in-person coaching. 98%. So if you think that all these other things pay a lot, or it's easy to generate revenue from all these other avenues, it isn't necessarily. There are people who've done very, very well with it. But I agree, don't quit the day job, because my day job is what allows me to do all these other passion projects that I really enjoy. So I think you really want to always be working on the day job and make sure that's really strong. And then the other aspects can be extensions of it.
Because, just this fairy tale of like, you can create this job that, like this career based on what you love. And it's just, that's not a very logical way in the environment in which we live in. So, I mean, like, it can happen, but it's like you said, like, it's taken you like months to like set up the platform. Like if you didn't have a job between then, or like you weren't willing to put in the work, like you fucked. Like you're not going to generate any income on your first blog and your first podcast. Fuck, we have like between both of our podcasts, like 130 episodes or some shit, and it doesn't make money.
Yeah.
I know most people with podcasts, like they lose money. So
we pay money.
What?
I probably owe you some.
Actually, I pay money to host my podcast. Now that I think about it.
Now that we don't host and we have it free, it's like I think it's like a net win because I can't remember. Anyways, long story short is like these types of things feed into the bigger picture, but the bigger picture can't be dictated by money because a lot of these ventures, writing, podcasts, even like showing up on other people's podcasts or like even speaking for a lot of these events, like they don't pay shit.
No.
You know what I mean? Like even speaking at events, like their honorariums and all these things, like the people who are making money are like the people who have their own seminars and charging 10 grand a spot. But even that, do the math. If they do 5 events a year, they're only making 50 grand. They still need to work. So anyways, like once you start to like realize, and we talked to a lot of people, how much money is being made on the back end of a lot of these projects, it's not all fucking sunshine and rainbows. Like you need to have a foundation rooted in the stuff that works to then have the opportunity to do these things that are cool and look awesome.
Yeah,
I still think those cool and awesome things should, in a big way, sorry, Carolyn,
Let's cut
be
it off.
used to direct people back to the core business. Now, all right, your turn. We've talked too much.
I'm sorry. That was just to make Dean laugh.
Fired up today. I usually don't say shit.
No, I just wanted to bring it back to how you both were saying how it's important to not put yourself in a position where you're creating content purely because you're relying on the money that content brings in, because it affects your decision making. And I see that firsthand with a lot of different companies, but also with the website that I have today. If I had to completely rely on money, like on my website for money, which I don't know how the fuck I would do that this early on in my career, most of the articles that have been doing very, very well would not exist. Like, for instance, the imposter syndrome article, I wouldn't write that article because when I sit down and think about like content, I wouldn't think imposter syndrome would be a topic that would bring in a lot of traffic, but it just happened to because I wasn't relying on my content as a stream of revenue or like my primary income. And I just made decisions based on what interested me, right? What I wanted to read about. So I wrote the article on imposter syndrome thinking it's only going to get a few hits, but at least I like this article. It got an insane amount of traffic. Not only that, but it got an insane amount of emails and DMs rolling in with people sharing their stories and asking me questions. The Dragon Ball Z article is now like, I think my number one, like in terms of traffic. And I didn't even write that thinking that it would bring in traffic. I wrote that because I was just really happy that Mike went on my podcast and he mentioned he really liked Dragon Ball Z. So I was like, to make Israel. Yeah. I was just like, well, he loves Dragon Ball Z. He took the time to go on my podcast and I actually really, really freaking like him. So I'm like, this is just a thank you, like a token of like gratitude. And it exploded. Like within 12 hours, I had like 1,000 reads,
which is great numbers. I think that is really
considering I'm only in I've only released a total of 4 articles.
Basically what you need to do is get a free ebook, get a funnel. Like I've read enough on this stuff, and then you transition them to the high ticket item. That's you want the answer to how you make
What's
money.
the high ticket? What's the high ticket item?
Your coaching service that's shitty.
Fuck, you mean the shit I don't want to do?
You just gave away all of the secrets, $500 a month worth of business coaching that these guys who look like they're about 23 years old and all the Facebook ads we're getting. This is the shit they're selling.
Basically, I love making fun of it. It's like low-hanging fruit, but like it does make it. I enjoy it. But basically, you take your article, and that is an ebook. Now you're an author. And then you transition them to the stuff, and like basically you did it without actually doing it. Like people are asking you, which is like perfect because like that's what all this business advice is like trying to lead to. They're incompetent and can't do it. You basically done it by again being yourself and writing stuff that's actually good, as opposed to writing an ebook for profit.
Actually, screw the ebook. Fuck the ebook. I actually do have a high ticket item. You want to hear that crazy idea? It's not even an idea. I have people invested in it. It's called Bibles and Sit-Ups. It's a retreat.
Yeah.
And Mike Israel is going to be there. Greg Knuckles is going to be there. Lee Peel is going to be there. And Megan Calway. We're just going to like pray and do sit-ups.
Is this for real?
Absolutely.
If you did that, like that, here's a fucked up thing.
Do you know how much money we would make from like biblical fitness industry?
Yeah, you tie religion. You want to tie religion to anything, like you're good.
Yeah, just put Bible quotes on the posters, and like I'll be like, oh, Spencer Nadolski is gonna make an appearance, and then like 2 days into the retreat, I'll be like, oh, Spencer got food poisoning, but he will come for the next year's retreat. And if you're interested in seeing Spencer Nadolski in next year's retreat, you should buy the tickets right now. I can see this now.
Someone's going to listen to this, think you're serious, and like Mike Israel's going to get emails and be like, what the fuck is this shit?
You know what I'm going to do? Like if people remember, then good for them, but people probably won't remember. On April 1st or April Fool's Day, I'm going to create a sign-up page for Bibles and sit-ups.
That's great.
Okay, like because I like this stuff and like I think it's like super diabolical, but I think you could like set it up exactly like the prototypical like I'm gonna coach your business, like set a funnel, do it like to a T, because they're like you can do this in like one day. So you could just do like a really, really good version of it and just prove like, well, it'll work. That's the fucked up thing. So like just prove the worth of like the funnel system. And do it. I want it to be like legit, not just like an April Fool's joke where it's like you talk about it. Like it needs to be like.
Oh, you mean like I should actually run a retreat called Bibles?
No. Get to the point where you're about to take their money, and then have the April.
Well, that's what the sign up page for is, like pre-sale. Like sign up for the pre-sale.
Yeah, like and get actual metrics on it.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna have an email list, and I'm gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna get in so much trouble for this.
Probably.
All
right,
but it'll be okay.
We've got.
Yeah, I gotta go.
So no. Actually, I wanted to sort of explain why I was doing this. So I always ask each guest, about books they've been reading, whatever. But actually, we're going to pivot off that, and it's partly because you, Carolyn, myself, our episode with Jordan Side, our episode with Jill Coleman recently, and a lot of other discussion has really been a lot about spending more time creating and less time consuming. So I actually am thinking, trying to not necessarily drive people to feel like they have to go and read more books. We've had so many recommendations over the last 2 years plus. So instead, I'm going to ask you and subsequent guests, what have you been enjoying in your downtime? Because we also have to create time to relax and unplug from this constant quest to be successful. What are your preferred types of entertainment in your downtime?
Oh, fuck. Dean Guido, you're gonna fucking think I'm crazy again. It's like every time we meet, you always go like, Carolyn is just worse than I imagine. So
don't tell people
the main hobby I have, I'm actually going to go do this, or like do this hobby or whatever, do this activity in 2 hours actually. It's what?
Trampoline fitness?
Trampoline fitness, yeah, right. No, it's cleaning. So I like to go into my friends' homes and just like Marie Kondo their place, but not just Marie Kondo their place. Like I bring in like my Lysol wipes, which I love the lemon scent the most, but they just came out with the they just came out with the linen scent, which is nice. And I bring in a pair of my I just died. My dusting gloves. I have the ones with no fingers, but I also have the ones with fingers. It gets into the little crevices properly. And my Dyson. And basically what happens is like I put away my phone and for an hour or two, I just clean my friends' homes to the point where like it meets my standards. And like Andrew's been to my condo. I'm very clean. And it makes me happy. Like when my friend Jenny, whose home I'm going to today, asked me what I wanted for Christmas, I said, let me clean your home. So I'm doing it in different phases. This is phase 2 today, and I'm sterilizing her fridge.
Can you at least like tell me, so like be honest with me, did you do this before that fucking TV show came on Netflix?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So I have
more respect for you in that sense, because if you just did it as a copycat to try to get famous.
No. This is literally I remember when I was in college, my mom like woke up in the middle of the night because I had like a stressful exam week, and like she went into the kitchen and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I had all the fridge drawers pulled out because I was just like cleaning and sterilizing the fridge.
Why don't you just get a cleaning job? Like go be
because it's not a hobby and enjoyable if you get paid for it.
Yeah, that's exactly. We've just been talking about doing stuff you enjoy getting paid.
No, I don't trust strangers' homes. I only trust my friends' homes because I can only handle X amount of like surprises.
I don't want that you lose in an actual hoarder's home.
Just do it for like a really like an exorbitant amount of money, and then do it like.
Oh my god. It's crazy. So in the UK, there's a show called Obsessive Compulsive Hoarders, and I watched that during my free time as well. And I tried to sign up for it, but I got rejected because they don't accept non-UK citizens.
You're not a hoarder.
No, but they bring in people with OCD and OCPD into like hoarders' homes, and they then they give them like a whole week to completely take apart the home, get rid of shit. Obsessive compulsive cleaners.
Oh my god, that's such a good idea.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. They have like those episodes on YouTube. Obsessive compulsive cleaners. It's based out of the UK. So they bring in like a team of 2 OCD cleaners, and for the whole week they get to like throw shit out, like re-clean stuff, bleach stuff, vacuum stuff, and then like step back and go like, "You welcome."
That's like actually amazing.
Yeah, that's my hobby. That's what I do during my downtime. I clean people's homes.
I don't think we'll find a better answer than that over the next that set the bar pretty high.
Well, I think like a lot of people will tell you the normal answer. But like that's like the real answer. Like now I'm trying to think of like what's my real answer.
Well, I'm afraid to ask certain people because they're going to get a lot of answers that involve porn. I'm sure of it. So
yeah, like even this was like borderline like you're getting. Anyways, I'm not going to go there.
I mean, do you know what?
That's probably why people on this show like it, because like these obsessive compulsive, they probably get sexual pleasure from like cleaning people.
No, I don't.
Totally, like
no,
yeah,
it's decluttering your brain. It's like getting getting yourself rid of the anxiety. I mean, I'm
serial killer stuff.
No,
like, I've seen that show. It's a show called Serial Killers. It's on Netflix.
Did you just compare me to a serial? I mean, it is plausible.
Call yourself during this episode a narcissist, a psycho,
and you like things like
there was something else you said that was along those lines too. I can't
remember.
Sterile, yeah. Like that's some Dexter shit. Like that's essentially you just described Dexter, and the show like about serial killers on Netflix. I can't really think of it at this moment.
And who would ever suspect this tiny little Asian girl?
Yeah, like you're literally hitting all the points. Like the only thing that you don't have, or you haven't divulged, is like sexual fantasies about it. And that's like the kicker for like all the serial killers. Is like
guys, but can I add like one little tidbit in? So remember when you messaged me before this podcast and said, are you home yet? Like, are you there? And I said I was walking into the condo with my dogs. I wasn't. I was actually completing a purchase for a Dyson V10 during the Black Friday sale.
Really?
Yes, I have the receipts for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I would buy Dyson if my wife would let me. They work really well.
It's $200 off now.
I would but the thing is, I'd rather get a new bench bar. So,
you could afford both.
I can afford both.
All right. So if anybody still wants to follow Carolyn after finding out about her hobbies and her obsessions, we've got to let them find you.
Yeah, where's the best place to find you right now? Like, where are you putting all your content up? And
this sounds so creepy. Where can you find Carolyn so you can kill her before she kills you?
You
can. No. You can find me on artofgettingshitdone.com or find my podcast, The Art of Getting Shit Done, on Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, anything but iTunes, because iTunes hates me for profanity.
why don't you just put an exclamation?
I did. I'm going through the third submissions. I removed like the swear word and put it in like the stars, so I'm just waiting to get approved.
Okay,
good.
Yeah, I told you that. You still didn't do it.
I know. I should have listened to you. Oh well. I don't listen to you because I was just like, he's just a man. He's just telling me what to do because I'm a woman and I don't know better.
Exactly. You want to go down that road? Like we've never gone down that road, but like let's do it. No, we won't go down that road.
Please don't fire all of us. Thank you.
Yeah, watch the podcast becomes, we change the name to the Mansplaining Hour. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah, fuck you. Person who thinks that. Like,
I don't know.
You're one of my best friends in the fitness industry. I can say whatever the fuck I want to you, even though that's the worst way of going about it. But
this is a close friend of yours that said this?
No. I'm saying you're a close friend. I would consider us close friends. We talk lots.
Oh, okay, God.
In terms of like, internet fitness friends, like you're probably in my top 10.
No, I thought you were saying like it was a close friend that was calling you misogynistic.
No, I don't. People who are close to me understand that I'm definitely not.
Except me. So, except me.
Yeah, but you would say that.
With a wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
People on the internet, what you say out loud, we can do that.
We can do that.
No.
We can do that. We should start our own podcast called the Fit Tea. But not the actual fit detox tea that people think of. More of like the...
Like we're trying to detox our brains and it'll be like a big brain dump of all the inappropriate things.
You guys drink, what is it, like that magic mushroom tea and then record.
Yeah.
We would all get in so much trouble for that. Oh,
no,
God.
You know what would come out? Like it would be so fucked anyways. I'm not going to get into mushrooms.
You'd be surprised at how many people that I know from my travels. And I'm just not into this stuff straight up. I'd admit it, but who actually like doing mushrooms. Like there's some pretty prominent people who really enjoy doing mushrooms in our industry. And so be it, right? Like no judgment here.
That's so scary.
Well, they microdose, but regardless.
Oh, okay.
So it's like taking Adderall.
No, I think some of them macrodose at times too. So
we'll probably
go out and have a good time. But anyway, it was really great having you on. We've got to go
to the fitness industry.
We've got to get this week's podcast up. So if you're listening to this now and you want to go back, we have James Krieger already released from last week. And we brought him back. James is a good friend and an awesome dude. Next week, if everything goes according to plan, we'll be releasing Christian Thibodeau. So you'll get another dose of Christian. Christian's been on the past. And I would mention a few names as well. We talked a lot about Mike Dola today. So you could Lisa Lewis. We mentioned Jeb Johnston. We've had them all on the podcast. They're all really amazing people. Just scroll back through the stuff we've released and you'll find we talked a lot about Mike Isertel. We've had him on a few times. He's a blast. And then most of all, go check out Carolyn's podcast too. And thankfully, it's not like finding another podcast, and like there's a weekly one. It gets overwhelming to consume it all.
How many reviews do you have?
Me? Yeah. None at the moment, actually.
What? We need to get some. But with Carolyn's podcast, like she said, there's one a month, so you get to like enjoy it as a treat, but it's not overwhelming to try to keep up with all of it. So it's just not throwing more shit that you actually have to consume, and then you can keep focusing on creating what you've been trying to help people.
Yeah, I'm just like Aunt Flo. I come once every month, but in the good way.
It's really great. That's what I mean. Like, if anyone like actually listens to this and they say I talk shit, like this is like that's her good best behavior. Like I'm generally like what you get in this podcast is generally mostly how I am. You're like way worse.
I just made myself cry.
Okay, if you want to get a shit done, listeners, like you brought your listeners, like they should go review your podcast because that's fucked up 0 reviews, and they should review ours. So that's our sales pitch, our like messed up sales pitch. 4 reviews is
1 star, too much swearing.
Yeah, this definitely has profanity, but it's just because like it's one of those things where like what do they say about profanities? Like you have nothing good to say, so you say profanity. Like that's pretty much our whole podcast.
Yeah. Shit. Yeah.
Shit. Okay, cool. These guys.
Bye.
All right, so
Shut up and sit down.